Everyone, so I did my project on fetal alcohol syndrome for clinical neuropsychology this semester, and I just really thought that this was an interesting subject because it's not something that's often talked about. People often struggle with this and go undiagnosed and end up not being able to really truly understand what is going on with them, especially those who have never been told that alcohol was a part of their development within the womb. So let's get started. So first I started with what is clinical neuropsychology, which is, this course. And clinical neuropsychology is best described as a subfield within clinical psychology that is solely dedicated to the understanding of the relationship between the brain and behavior, such as what's going on in your brain when you're angry, sad, upset, can't fully understand a concept or are struggling to learn something, just what's happening with the brain. This neuropsychology is mostly used to help psychologists understand, like I said, the different areas and systems of the brain that are working when an individual experiences things such as memory loss, mental health issues, developmental issues, and just can't figure out what's going on within that individual. So, fetal alcohol syndrome is also known as fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and it includes a large range of physical, behavioral, and developmental delays that are formed due to alcohol exposure before birth. Oftentimes, these issues are detectable at birth due to physical appearance of the infant and continue to affect the individual throughout their lifetime, whether it's including severe mental illness or developmental delays, especially throughout childhood and school. According to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, an estimated 1 to 5% of American first graders have FASD and are not either aware or are struggling with it. So in order to detect FASD, it's honestly quite difficult at times due to many women not wanting to admit that they had consumed alcohol during pregnancy and not wanting to admit that they did these bad things. But there are a lot of physical signs when an infant is born that can help detect it. These signs include certain characteristics of the face, such as a smooth philtrum, which is the cupid's bow. The upper lip is also very short and very small eye openings. But in order to truly diagnose a kid or a baby with FASD, they have to have 2 or more of the physical features and to be able to detect something within their brain. Here's a picture of an infant with the physical signs of FASD, which is the main way a physician can diagnose them. So like I said, you have the smaller eye openings, no cupid's bow, and a really small upper lip. And typically they also tend to have very small heads as well. And there are many different types of fetal alcohol syndrome. FASD is the main term that is used to describe the different ranges of the disabilities and birth defects that are formed from prenatal alcohol exposure, but there are also 2 others that are neurobehavioral disorder associated with prenatal alcohol exposure and alcohol-related neurodevelopment disorders. So the first one is when an individual suffers from severe mental health issues and or neurodevelopmental effects from the prenatal alcohol exposure, but they have no facial features attached to FASD, and oftentimes these individuals will go undiagnosed just due to not being able to tell. ARND, the second main type, is another one that focuses on children with neurodevelopmental issues and behaviors that also have no facial features, but these individuals will typically suffer within school and tend to have issues such as being angry and unable to control their emotions, and are a little easier to be able to diagnose in a sense because you can start limiting what could be their issue within school at a young age. So the brain is affected in many different ways. Like with fetal alcohol syndrome, just kind of depends on what the child has, how severe, how much alcohol was consumed during pregnancy, how long it's gone undetected. These infants tend to have much smaller brains and have defects within their frontal lobe, corpus callosum, cerebellum, hippocampus, and basal ganglia, which all control body temperature, short-term memory, and the long-term memory, motor control, And most frequent way to be able to look at the brain with a child with FASD is using an MRI, just because they are so young and it's harder. So here is like an example. So here's a baby born without FASD, just a normal kind of looking brain, and then here is a brain with FASD, and as you can tell, it's much smaller, very like dense in here, just not the same typical brain. And then this is on an MRI where they can see the different areas that have been affected by the alcohol consumption within utero. And living with fetal alcohol syndrome just causes disabilities that could last a lifetime for those who are diagnosed. People who suffer from this will often have behavioral, mental, intellectual, and neurological problems. But with that being said, it is hard to diagnose this because it can fall under a bunch of different other mental illnesses. So it's good to try to diagnose it as early as possible and as soon as possible in order to help the child be better at school and control either anger, anxiety, any mental health issue that could be happening. This is just a little video that is on my thing that just shows an example of what life with fetal alcohol syndrome is actually like. And a lot of people that go through this don't know what's wrong with them. It's something that needs to be more prevalent and talked about within our culture, because it is very common for an individual who has these substance abuse issues to drink or consume a drug while pregnant, and we need to be able to help these kids understand what's wrong with them in order to help them fully handle the emotions and behavioral issues that could be happening from this.